Can I just tell you? So okay. So here's the thing. So I've never played Metal Gear because I suck at stealth. Right. I played the VR missions as like an intro to Metal Gear, to like just learn the gameplay, and I was just like, okay, this is not my bag. It's not for me. So I've never played one. So I've been learning about it through Dave Roberts. He did a summation of all the plot.
An amazingly coherent summation.
Shockingly coherent.
Very coherent.
It's still crazy pants.
Yeah.
And then his Who's Who in Phantom Pain. So you say Shadow Moses, and now I know what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
It's very exciting for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to GR Plus Live. My name is Anthony John Agnello, Senior Social Editor here at Games Radar. I am joined today by Managing Editor Susan Arndt. Hello, Susan.
Hello.
And ladies and gentlemen,
my new amiibo.
And your new amiibo action.
My new amiibo. Yes.
These are British amiibo, by the way. Everybody.
It is. Yes. Yes.
These are British amiibo. And today is the very first episode of our second streaming talk show, wherein we have a guest. And this show is called How It's Done. And the reason it's called How It's Done is that this is a streaming thing. We play video games here on this Twitch channel. I don't know if you know this, Susan, but streaming video games is what you do on Twitch. That's the thing.
What? Is that what you do?
That's the thing.
I was unaware.
That's the thing that people do. And oh, jeez, I am going to have to remember how to play this game.
By the way, that is a colonial viper. Can we just all agree that that is a colonial viper?
So this show, How It's Done, is we talk to the people that make these video games, and you get to talk to them, you get to ask them questions, and today we are playing Galak-Z. I am not going to say the subtitle because it sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud.
It sounds like a club.
Yeah, Galak-Z, the Dimensional. It sounds like a club, or it sounds like a type of Japanese, like, candy bar.
Oh, yeah, it could be a candy bar, or it could be at the hotel where space assassins hang out.
Yes, yeah, it's like the John Wick.
Right, exactly, like John Wick.
Like, if John Wick were about Boba Fett and not Keanu Reeves, that's what it would be.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. So Galak-Z, if you are unfamiliar, is by 17-Bit Studios, a wonderful, wonderful studio. This is their sophomore game. They made a game called Skulls of the Shogun that came out a couple of years ago. That is a wonderful, wonderful strategy RPG. Susan, did you play Skulls of the Shogun?
I did not. Loved the art style. Never actually got a chance to play it though.
It is like crack. That is the best way to describe it. Like, you know that feeling you get when you play like something like Final Fantasy Tactics, and you know you're like, oh, one more round, one more match. Skulls of the Shogun.
3 a.m.
Yeah, and then it's like, and then the sun is coming up.
Yeah.
And you get to that point in Skulls of the Shogun immediately, and it's just like, I'm going to indulge everything you want as quickly as possible. It's simple, it's direct, and everybody was like expecting very great things from them after that. And like, as wonderful it is, great production values, great music, great game, but it still very much had, you know, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way. You could tell it was a small game. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
This was clearly the work of an independent studio operating a very tight budget, and it's their first game. And when they announced Galak-Z,
it's modest.
It's modest, and artful within its modesty, but still modest. Yeah. And it wasn't long after Skulls of the Shogun came out that they said, "Oh, we're going to make this space combat game." And it was like, okay, yeah, sure, let's see what that is. And as Galak-Z took shape over the from 2012 to now, the ambitions of it sort of got crazy. And so the final game, which came out 2 weeks ago on PlayStation 4 as part of like the PlayStation Summer indie games thing, which no longer seems to be a huge industry trend, but I'm glad that Sony still does it.
I know.
Yeah.
Microsoft used to do the Summer of Arcade, and it was awesome.
What the hell happened to the Summer of Arcade? When?
I think they just didn't have they de-emphasized the arcade side of things. I mean, they were really pushing the Xbox Live Arcade on the 360 for several years, and then I think they started probably when they started development on the One, but that's just a guess.
Right.
They really started to move away from that and de-emphasize that, and so you just didn't get the quality of games that you did those first few years. I mean, it was banging for a while.
It's not actually. I think Skulls of the Shogun, I think, was a Summer of Arcade game.
See, this is my point. Yeah.
And Yodel here in the chat is saying they stopped branding it Summer of Arcade, which I guess is true. But like, has anything come out on Xbox One this summer? Like at all?
I don't know. Okay, so here's the bad thing. Okay, so I moved, right? Like I moved house right before E3. By the way, if you're ever planning on moving as a game journalist,
you don't want to.
No, that is not good planning.
That's not when you should do that.
Don't do that. But anyway, so a lot of my stuff is still the only thing I have unpacked and hooked up is my PS4 because Witcher.
God, yeah. So you wouldn't even know. You wouldn't the Xbox One.
I wouldn't know. I
world
would not know.
Is under your radar. I the other day, what did I finally start playing? I finally started playing Sunset Overdrive. That's right. My third attempt to love Sunset Overdrive, and I turned on my Xbox One. And you know that scene in Roger Rabbit when Eddie Valiant gets out his gun for the cartoon bullets, and all the bullets are like waking up, and they're all like, "Eddie Valiant! Oh my God!" That's the noise that my Xbox One makes now when I turn it on.
Yeah, but I need to hook it up now because I have Rare Replay.
Oh yes, yeah. No, that's what I turned it on for. To play Banjo-Kazooie for the first time in my life. That's what it was. Which I love. Which is remarkably a great game, and I'm going to be writing about that for us in the near future, which is fun. But so Galak-Z. Back to Galak-Z.
Yeah, I was going to say, now, explain, first of all, you were dead on with the 80s feel.
Right?
The 80s cartoon feel, totally, and I'm digging it, hardcore.
So
is that why you're in a Colonial Viper?
That is sort of why you're in this thing that is a cross between a Macross ship and a Colonial Viper and a one of the Voltron Force, but like Voltron Turbo, not the awesome Voltron Force.
Yeah. Now tell me. Okay, now explain what I mean. Obviously, you're flying around and shooting stuff, but explain the shtick. What?
So here is your setup, and Jake from 17-Bit Studios is going to be joining us in about 20 minutes, and he'll be able to tell us a lot more about this in detail. But the deal is, and I've only played the very beginning of this game, which as is probably demonstrated by the skill.
I was going to say
at which I am playing.
You're very good.
Yeah, I'm real good. I'm very good at video games in general on this stream. It's
you are the okayest gamer.
Yeah, we should do games done steadily. That'll be our summer event. Games done when we have free time.
Games done at a moderate.
Games done steadily. So when you start the game, your ship is basically drifting through space. You're part of a sort of Federation of Planets style jam, and there is an evil space empire, and there always is, and everybody in your fleet is screwed. They're all gone. They're all dead. Except for you. And one capital ship is left. And there is this commander on board who's super sexy, and she has What's the old school '80s anime? Was it Captain Harlock? Is that the one with the female pirate captain? Anyway, somebody in the chat will pick up on that one.
Yeah, that's true.
But she's got the huge mane of like raven hair. She sort of looks like my wife, but like if she were in an '80s anime, which is awesome. Damn it, single and loving it. Single and loving it. Anthony gets all the certificates for participation. Thanks.
This is very Battle of the Planets.
Very Battle of the Planets. Very Battle of the
Planets. And I am therefore all for it. G-Force.
Yes, a lot of G-Force or Gotcha Man, if you guys want to be old school about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you did you know, Susan, that there was a point 15 years ago, and this was before the catastrophic Matrix sequels were made.
Oh God!
That the Wachowski brothers, when they were still the Wachowski brothers, the Wachowski siblings, forgive me, the Wachowski siblings were going to be making a G-Force movie.
You know, I'm not sure that's a good thing, honestly. Let's review. No, forgetting even the fact that the Wachowskis actually aren't nearly as talented as
people give them
to be. Yeah. The Matrix was a fluke, guys, and honestly, that whole story about them stealing it from somebody, I kind of believe it.
Yeah.
Visuals, they get visuals, like seriously, but scripts, no. But anyway, let's review. G-Force is a bunch of people in bird costumes. Who make a human pyramid and then turn around real fast in space.
Yes. That's perfectly accurate. Who were they even fighting?
I don't even remember. I just remember...
We have Wavius here weighing in. The Matrix was stolen from several sources?
That's true. It is basically Dark City. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, but the claim could be made that Dark City is basically City of Lost Children, which is basically Fantastic Planet, which is
City of Lost Children is nothing like Dark City. Nothing.
You wouldn't well, it is a bunch of like evil people experimenting on individuals in their sleep to try and get at something fundamentally human. I don't want to get too deep in the Dark City weeds because, man.
You know what's so funny? I was because I had to fly home from England, and that's an 8.5-hour flight. Yay! And so I was thinking, like, gee, if I get Wi-Fi at any point, what would I like to download? And I thought of Dark City. So it's all synergy.
It's on the ship.
Yeah, it's all
synergy. Yeah.
And Wavius dropped the Invisibles too, which is that's true. That is very true. You were saying.
I have no idea. Oh, the 13th floor.
Oh yeah, the 13th.
13th floor is ripping off somebody. I'm not really sure who because I don't know the chronology. But all I remember about G-Force is the two heroes, both of whom were really cute, and then there's the girl, she wears pink, and then there's the fat comic relief guy, and then there's the little kid who talks and tweets and chirps.
And that's why isn't. Because that's the exact same layout of Voltron. Like, G-Force and Voltron had the exact same... Like, there's the big dude, there's the swarthy dude, there's the hero in red, there's the lady, and then there's the pipsqueak.
Right.
That like, I keep waiting when I'm playing Galak-Z for that to emerge.
That would be amazing.
I want that pattern.
That would be everything.
To pop up. That. Because look at the hero. Look at the pilot. He is...
Yeah. Well,
he's Hero Man.
Yeah.
He's Hero Man in red. So the other...
Wait. Hoplin42 says 13th floor was ripping off Simulation Theory and also me for the time I spent watching it. Yes, that's good.
Yeah, Hoplin, we'll never get that one back. We'll never get...
no, it's not good. Yaddle also mentions that Speed Racer is fantastic. Speed Racer is visually wonderful.
I love that movie.
But even if you enjoy the movie, again, it's not an original story. I mean, the
that's true.
Speed Racer story already existed. So again, like, when they have something to work from.
All right, wait. Question for you, Susan, and the chat.
Yeah.
And like, this might shock you and the chat, considering how like 90s references are my jam.
That's true, they are.
I've never seen Bound, ever.
Oh,
Is Bound any good?
It's not. No, here's why. So, Bound, the only reason you know Bound exists, A, because the Wachowskis did it, and B, because it came out at a time when homosexuality was not shown in entertainment media. It was still...
It was weirdly de rigueur in like those couple of years to be like, and like there was a whole genre. Like it was called, and I'm not making, Susan will back me up on this if people in the chat are too young to remember, queer film was like
that's true.
the actual genre at the time.
Yeah. It was used purely for shock value as opposed to acting like these were just normal people who with their own gender. And Bound was I think was Gina Gershon in that.
Yep.
Yeah, who was walking, talking sex. I mean, the
super
woman
hot.
is just good lord.
Yep.
And so the idea of having her in a lesbian scene, that is why Bound got a whole bunch of attention. The movie is not that good. It's not awful. But if it were not for that one aspect, nobody would remember that this movie existed.
Oh my god, I'm going to die because of giant bugs!
Oh!
Yeah, I've got real giant bugs problems.
Why is it always bugs in space? Why? Why bugs? Why is it never kittens?
I do have a theory about that. Because bugs and cephalopods, at least on our planet, are the things that can survive in the most hostile environments.
Okay, fair. Yeah.
And so I think we automatically assume that they're it's not going to be like dogs. It's not going to be space dogs.
Well, it should be.
I mean, it should be.
Space kittens, space birds.
Yeah, we all want it to be space dogs.
Space fish. I actually would kind of like space fish.
Yeah, I would like space fish. I would enjoy that. Like the old shooters Darius. I love those games. God.
Yeah. Or like the giant space whale from the episode of Doctor Who called The Beast Below.
Oh, I like that.
It's a really great episode.
It's
one of my favorites, actually.
So,
really good.
Susan, I might die here.
Okay. Well, you usually do when we're streaming.
Yeah, I almost always die pretty early. The fact that I haven't died yet is pretty good.
Hit pause for a second. Because I really...
You like the pause screen?
I do! And I don't know if our audience is old enough to recognize what's going on.
To appreciate what's happening here. So,
yeah, and why that is so awesome.
The adjust tracking and the haze at the top of the screen is a really good indicator.
It's just the best. I love it. Yeah.
It is mimicking Well, no, isn't VHS like something that hipster kids are into?
Is it? Like vinyl?
Yeah, like VHS thing. There's an awesome horror movie that came out 2 years ago that was only available on VHS.
What?
Oh yeah. It's called the Channel 62 Halloween special or something.
But not VHS, ironically.
The idea is it's taped off of a local news station that an NBC affiliate in the 80s, and every year they have like a Halloween special where kids come on like a parade and they go to a haunted house, and so it's all like, instead of found footage, the style is in like you were just taping a local affiliate channel.
That is genius. And I want to see it.
Oh, it's awesome. I'm so surprised you haven't heard of it. It's the most Susan Arndt thing in the world.
I don't have a VCR anymore.
Yeah, neither do I. I have not seen it myself. I only know that it exists.
Yeah, okay, now I need to search this out, because I mean it's a genius idea, and actually having it on the videotape is brilliant.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that who the heck has those anymore? I mean, really.
They have to have done like a streaming option at some point. because this was a couple years ago that this came out.
Okay.
But yeah, that is very much in the same vein as what we were just looking at.
So Wavius, beta tapes or die. I am totally with you on that. We had a Betamax. The picture was superior, by the way. It's true.
Getting goods. All right, so if I die, by the way, what will happen?
Yeah.
Like, so there is, and you and I have talked about this many times. The fact that we're not always huge fans of procedural generated content.
Yeah.
Because it feels a little less than crafted sometimes.
Yeah. True.
But a lot of everything in Galak-Z is procedurally crafted. So what happens is each time you die, the season will restart. So there are 5 seasons in the game, just like an old TV show.
Oh,
and
that's fun.
Yeah, so you have to get through a season without dying to get to the next season.
Very cool.
And
I dig it.
It's cool. It's very cool. And the story is set. Like, the story is set in place. I know that and we can ask Jake when he joins us in just about 9 minutes, everybody. We're going to have Jake from 17-Bit hanging out. We're just going to ask him all the questions like, how awesome is your game? To the real hard hitters. That's what we're going to do. But I'm sure he can tell us specifically what is procedurally generated and what is not, and what sort of different experiences you have, depending on how you end up playing. But you do have to go through, and as far as I know, like, you just need to find the exit. Those are the goals that I've seen. See, I'm searching for the black box. So I'm trying to find a flight box, and I get like a vague impression of where it could be. And I have a giant space map that'll show me. I'm bringing up the map here.
Giant space map.
I got a big space map for the people. Everybody, who doesn't like a space map?
Was that an automatic for the people reference?
Might have been. REM's on my brain this week. After our guest on Tuesday, Alex Young.
That's fair.
Which that was a moment of true stream jank, that show. Yeah. Just like the utter jankiest, firing everything up and discovering, like, I have everything in place. I have a wonderful guest. We have everything set up for the stream, and then the second controller port in my Retron 5 doesn't work. What the goddamn hell? Like, why? Why? I don't, like, it's not like it's something I'm doing. Like, it's not...
Oh, I don't know. Actually, I think you have a gremlin. I'm convinced, because this is what happens.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Like, as much as I would love to just, like, hang this around your neck, this is what happens, I swear to God. So we'll do... If you were with us in the joystick days,
right.
You know we frequently didn't test anything until like 5 minutes before we went live. This happened a lot. So the pre-show would end up with us just trying to fix stuff. But now we have learned, we have grown as people, and we'll test it like a couple hours before we're meant to go on the air. And we'll just leave it. And we won't touch anything. And then we'll come back, and it won't work.
Yeah, it just will have stopped working.
Yeah,
inexplicably.
So I'm convinced you have gremlins.
Yeah, it's the only explanation. Actually, while everybody is hanging out, and before Twitch puts us on the homepage in 5 minutes.
Oh God!
Is the sound okay? Is everything all right? And just to check, just to make sure that everything sounds good.
Yodel says the pre-show is generally the first 20 minutes of the show. Not inaccurate.
Yeah, that's accurate. That's totally accurate.
Yodel is not wrong.
That's how we roll, y'all.
What was the name of that movie on the videotape?
Oh, it's I can't. It's Channel something Halloween special. And I like the channel. Ooh, 4+4 missile capacity. Yes. And restore 8 missiles to your ship. Yes. and turbocharged chip ability. So yeah, so you find this dude who's got the Band-Aid over his nose. We're going to assume that it's not like he got into a fight. That's why he has a bandage over his nose. I think I'm going to go ahead.
It's a breathe right strip.
Yeah, it's a breathe right strip.
Clearly.
He's got a deviated septum.
Yeah.
And he's got to take care of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ludwig, you fly backwards. Don't tell me what to do.
But you were.
Yeah, I was flying backwards a lot.
You were. Yeah, you did. I'm not sure it was on purpose.
No.
But you were.
Absolutely
and firing.
not. Absolutely not. Yeah, assault muzzle. Give me auto fire, please.
Oh,
and,
yeah. Give whatever will help you not die. What's a crash coin?
A crash coin?
Is that a life?
Yeah, I think a crash coin is like you get to blow up.
Okay.
Oh, ship ability. Yeah, give me that. Give it to me. Give it to me. What did I get? Hellfire payload. Missiles set enemies on fire. Yes!
Yay! We like setting enemies on fire.
Oh! Ludwig, flying backwards is awful! Right into a corner. Right into a corner.
Oh, Hopland says that the bandage is to help him stop snoring. Which, yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely like he's got some somnambulic problems.
Yeah.
He wants his wife
and he
to get
doesn't want to disturb, you know.
Yeah, his significant other.
Yeah. Who is a pilot.
Let's just create new backstories. So when the person that actually created the game joins us momentarily, we could just tell him, hey man, here's what your game's actually about.
Yeah, by the way.
Let me lay it on you.
But I like the little they look kind of like dandelions that you shoot.
that blow you up, explodey dandelions.
Okay,
Ooh,
well,
did I get there?
Maybe they wouldn't blow me up if I were playing, but they do seem to have.
Trust me.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I got it. And all right, yeah. And so when you get your objective, there is like a portal at the end, this floating triangle that I'm holding on. And if you're getting shot, like you might not be able to warp away, which is a very nice touch, which I like a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair because that's not cheap, you know. Because if it's a cheap win, you know what I mean.
Smelly Tunic, bringing the hard-hitting questions. Were you the voice of Crash? Oh, and we changed the story of your game. That's how we lay it down. Get used to it, game developers. Deal with it.
Welcome to Games Radar, where we completely rewrite the story of your game.
Everybody, would we be complete dicks if we decide to stream Adrift and invite Adam Orth on and then immediately say deal with it to him? Like, would we be horrible people, Susan?
Dude, that's like, okay, look, you've already said I didn't ask for this to Elias Defexis.
Look, I can't, how am I supposed to resist? I couldn't.
9 times?
Yeah, 9 billion times. Well, actually, did you
counted. Bro, he counted, okay?
Did you see our wonderful interaction earlier this week, me and Elias? Elias and I had a moment.
Oh, I did not.
Because, well, I recently purchased the action figure of Quiet for Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yes.
And so I changed the setup on my desk of who's hanging out, and I busted out my I busted out my Adam Jensen,
who has a little Girl Scout cap on.
Who has a Girl Scout beret on. And so I said to Elias, I was like, a new look for you to consider while doing your performance capture.
Yeah.
To which he responded, the look on the Adam Jensen's face says more than I ever could. Which is just accurate. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to pause for one moment in the game and try to bring Jake in and make sure that he has the link to get it in, to get into this chat that's happening right now. And if you hear the type, you can see me. Why am I narrating what I'm physically doing? There's a camera.
I don't know.
There's a camera right here.
Yeah, but okay. In your defense, God, I'm defending you a lot today. We're not used to having the pictures.
Yeah, that's true. That's accurate.
Yeah.
That is very accurate. And all right,
where does your game fit into the Mario timeline?
the Mario Kart 8 timeline, the classic timeline of old.
I feel like clearly it's got to be in the Galaxy's timeline, right? Like it's in between 1 and 2, right?
Invite. Enjoy this thing. You can also see me leaning in to see the very tiny print. Change. Anyone want? Yeah. Okay. Boom. All right. So Jake. Oh, here we go. Oh no! Jake is unable to join the call.
Oh.
That's not good. All right, hold on 1 second.
One true, Nate. Yes, there will be a Q&A with Jake. You can put your Qs into the chat as we go, assuming we can make the technology work. Which, with us, let's be honest,
it's doubtful. It's very doubtful.
It's 50-50.
Let's see here.
This is between the construction of the Double Dash Rainbow Road and the MK8 Rainbow Road. Fair. You're welcome to the pre-show. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. If you are just joining us, welcome to Games Radar Plus Live. My name is Anthony John Agnello, and this is our brand new talk show called How It's Done. Joining me as well today is managing editor Susan Arndt. Hello, Susan.
Hi-yo.
And we are going to be talking to Jake from 17-Bit is going to be on. Jake, I want to say Kazdal, but I have not heard him pronounce his last name, and I am notorious for mispronouncing last names.
You're notorious for mispronouncing a number of things. But...
It's very true. It's very true. But Jake is going to be joining us in 2 seconds, and I'm going to say, give it a try. You guys can see, like, my email screen. There you go.
Yeah, I know. Like, you've been showing off your email to everybody.
Everybody enjoy that. Enjoy a look at my emails. That's the emails, everybody.
That's the emails.
Enjoy the emails. Oh, no. All the hacks. That's what's...
hot hacks action.
The hot hacks. So let's see. Hopefully Jake has gotten in.
By the way, again, I just want to stress, when we tried this a few hours ago, it worked.
Oh, everything worked flawlessly.
Perfectly.
Everybody signed on. It took 2 seconds, and then everything was great. But yes, we are going to be playing more Galak-Z with one of the key minds behind this action, and he should be joining us. Everything should be working. Should be fine. I sincerely hope we don't need to restart the Hangout, because that would be a bummer. Wouldn't that be the best?
I'm doing editor face now.
You're doing editor face?
I'm doing editor face.
Susan, tell me what happened at 2 p.m. Eastern time today. Or 2:30.
It was like, seriously, like bink, bink, bink. Hey, everything works. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me? Yay! Like, it was all perfect.
Yep.
Seriously.
Done. Dink. The computer made a dinking sound.
Oh, it dinked?
It dinked. I would go as far as to say that we got an official dink.
Okay.
This is riveting video entertainment, everybody. My favorite thing in the world is doing this live, and everybody who's joining us right now, my favorite thing in the world when we plan streams and talk to people in production is I always like to point to radio as part of our model, to which Susan responds, yes, because that's relevant. And we're modern.
So yeah, this is how we jam. This is our like I would love to tell you, gosh, guys, I'm sorry. This is really unusual. No, I won't lie. I won't lie to you. This is how we roll. This is what happens. Things break, and we go, why is it broken? And we never know. But we do eventually get it to work, and it's good.
Susan, hold on for just one moment.
Okay.
And you are going to... Everybody, Susan is going to disappear momentarily, and she will
I'm going to go away.
Back in 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
And now, everybody, we are, if you are just joining us, we are getting Jake Kazdal on to today's stream of Galak-Z. Susan.
Hello.
Welcome back, Susan.
I'm back. Yay.
Everybody, Susan is back. And we have a whole brand new thing going on.
It's a whole new thing.
A whole new thing. A fantastic thing that's gonna be things. I've got a thing to do. A bunch of things. Got all kinds of things and what to do. That's it's a new song.
What is happening? What is it? Hi, Ibsen. What's up?
Ibsen, what's happening, brother? Yeah, One True Nate. Sorry, don't worry about it. And One True Nate, we will get your questions in front of Jake momentarily as we get this thing going back. Into the world.
Into the world.
Into the land down under.
No.
So, Susan, now that you've gotten to see a little bit of Galak-Z, are you going to play this game?
Here's the thing. I really love the aesthetic. Yeah. I'm so into the 80s vibe of it. It warms my heart. I will suck at this game. I know this about myself.
Yes.
I accept this about myself, but oh my god, it makes me so happy just looking at it. It's like, you know how other people are about Super Nintendo games, or Nintendo games rather, because that's what they grew up on? This is what I grew up on! Looking at this, and Battlestar Galactica, and all that, so...
Uh-oh! Jake Kazdal in the house! That's a thing that's happening! That is a thing that's happening. Jake!
Hello?
There you are! Yay! There you are! Finally! Dear God! How did that...
I have no idea what's going on with that, but...
No worries at all, my friend. I am glad you are back here with us. And everybody, we have Jake Kazdal of 17-Bit Studios on the line. Jake, am I pronouncing your last name correctly? Is that a thing that's happening?
Sorry, this thing just cut out for 1 second. Say it again.
I introduced you as Jake Kazdal, and I realized that I might not be pronouncing your name correctly.
That's close enough. We actually fight about it internally here in the family, so it's close enough, sure.
All right.
Anthony, we need to resize the video screen because we can only see the URL.
Yeah, I see that all there is literally plus.google.com. Everybody, once again, we tested everything earlier today. Jake joined us for this.
First time.
Jake is the second witness to this happening. It's all true. And I don't know how or why such a thing would be taking place, but there we are. Jake, so we plowed our way through the first two sections, the first two episodes of Season 1, and I do have one question before we dive into the third episode of Season 1. What is randomly generated? What is procedurally generated in the game, and what is not?
So early on, where you are, those first couple of missions are sort of more scripted than others. They've got some key dialogue. There's a kind of a plot point where you're getting those permanent upgrades, but the mission itself is generated due to kind of an algorithm. So the whole stage is being remixed every time. The squads you're going to be fighting against are drawn from a giant pool, kind of given point values. So you're going to fight different enemies in different places in a different location every time. As well as the treasure chests and all that kind of stuff. Like all the power-ups, everything in there is going to be sort of spawned based on algorithms and how far you are in the game and how much stuff you've unlocked and a bunch of other things like that. And I think you're still with me.
I am still with you. Yes.
Okay.
It was a rare moment of quiet from him.
That's not... No, Susan, I'm regularly quiet. I'm often a very quiet individual.
You mean like when you're sleeping?
Well, definitely not then. No, it's I'm far noisier when I'm sleeping.
So we have the first question we have, other than what is procedurally generated and what is not, is whether or not you provide the voice of Crash.
That is not myself. That is our illustrious studio director, Raj Joshi. That's his voice, is Crash. I'm actually the Hammerhead, which I don't know if you fought one of those yet. I provide some of the upper tier Imperial voices.
Jake, can you help me out? What is the deal with the Empire? Why are they being jerks? This is not something. I've not gotten into the niceties of the story yet. I just know that they're real pricks about everything.
They're kind of old school, just straight up blue skin bad guys, man. There's nothing good about them at all. So don't feel bad about shooting them. There's a lot of games these days where it's kind of ambiguous. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Am I supposed to hate this guy? This is an old-fashioned game, and you are supposed to hate them, and you're supposed to shoot everyone you see. So don't feel bad.
They hate your favorite restaurant, and they're probably racist, is what it comes down to.
Exactly, and they're trying to destroy your home planet just for giggles. So.
Yeah, Jake, what are the you've talked, and obviously Susan and I have been talking today about the old school sort of 80s anime inspirations of Galak-Z. What the hell was it with all of these evil blue skin empires at work
in a thing back then?
They're just not motivated by anything in particular. They're just constantly
your destruction.
Yeah,
they're just jerks, man. Yeah.
And I don't understand why they decide that they're going to go with the most ineffective weapons in the entire world to spread their domination across the land. They always are like, they have a fleet of spaceships that turn into robots, or they've got robot cats that turn into a big robot, and we're still just going to take this really flimsy, inflatable guy with octopus arms, who, when you slightly touch him with a sword, he explodes. Did you go into making Galak-Z being like, wait a second, we can't actually make an 80s anime because we can't have enemies that are pushovers?
Yeah, we kind of went the extreme opposite direction. I mean, we invested a lot of time and effort into our AI. We teamed up with this company called Sentient, sort of a startup doing middleware for AI solutions. And I was like, I want this thing to be a classically inspired game, but I want to sort of throw the rulebook out the window when it comes to what the enemies, what you should expect of them, if they're really dumb, if they're going to just run around. I wanted this to be a combat simulator, this combat simulator set in this kind of classic world. So our AI is tough. I mean, it's really tough. I mean, luckily in all the reviews we've been getting, everyone says it's tough, but they're also it's really fair. When you die, it's because you just weren't good enough. They're not cheating. They're just really good. They're aiming. They're actually judging your trajectory. They're like, all right, in a second, when my shot gets there, he's going to be here. They're really good at lining up their shots. They communicate. They run off when their shields are down. They will actually take hits for each other. If one guy's that's more senior, if his shields are down, they'll run in and try to cover him. I mean, it's very dynamic. It's organic. And it's kind of constantly evolving combat. And I think that's one of the strongest suits of the game. And getting back to where we started here, I do think we deviated a bit from these old anime where they were just cannon fodder. It's very much not that game.
Here's I am actually. Yeah, go ahead, Susan.
Because this is the kind of design stuff I really want to know. One True Nate wants to know if allowing the player to camp in lava pools, as long as you have the heat sink upgrade, a conscious design choice, or did that just kind of happen?
I mean, you don't get that upgrade very often. It's only going to randomly show up, and really, unless you go and piss off a bunch of enemies and run back there, they're not going to. Only a handful of them are going to fly by there on patrol, because that's kind of like their zone where they're patrolling.
Right.
So as soon as you take them out, you'd have to go and like really proactively get guys to come chasing after you in there. So it's not. I mean, we wanted it. It's in the tradition of a good roguelike. We want some runs to be more powerful than others. We want some to be weaker than others. So you're always doing sort of a new thing. I've actually never used that technique, and I've played this game for about 3 years now. I could see where you could. You totally could. I just like fighting too much, so I get real physical.
Jake, I was literally about to say, oh man, the tough but fair thing. I haven't noticed that this game is that hard, and I am about to die.
Yeah, of course you are.
Death has been.
Season one is easy. Like, it's meant to get people up to gear with the concepts of the game, kind of get you up to the basics of battle. In season 2, we kind of start ramping up, pretty good, and then by season 3, it's you got to be sort of well versed in a lot of these systems and stuff to try to stay alive for very long at all. So this is not a game that you're supposed to beat in a weekend, and I think. Some people kind of come into the mindset, it's like, well, it's a spaceship shooter, I'm going to sit down this week, I'm going to fly through. It's like, well, probably not. Some people have. I've seen it happen. But most people, we kind of consider each season as more of an exponential difficulty jump to kind of, your skill set has to be at a certain level to be able to kind of beat this thing. And so it's meant to be a game that kind of keeps on giving. I mean, I've been playing for, basically 3 years now, and the more I've been playing lately, my skill level is still going up. I'm still getting better. I'm still getting, more subtle kind of combat techniques under my belt, and it's just a game that keeps on giving the more you put into it.
Jake, tell me a little bit, we were talking before you joined us about how this is 17-bit's second game, and you guys have seemed to avoided the sophomore slump. That did not happen. You guys sort of started out promising with Skulls of the Shogun, and then immediately started work on Galak-Z, and have been working on it for the past 3 years. Was Galak-Z already in production when you guys were working on Skulls of the Shogun? Was this always going to be your next game? Can you tell me a little bit about the genesis of this thing?
There's been 2 titles that I sort of wanted to roll onto after Skulls of the Shogun. We were actually sort of fishing around the other one. We got some interest, but I figured that this was a better step for us now. So I've just sort of, they've been just a bunch of scribbles and notebooks and stuff like that for a long time. This started right after E3 of 2012. So Skulls had not yet shipped, but we were largely done with some of the, we were kind of waiting for the Windows 8 launch, and, kind of working on some of the PC ports and stuff like that were less about the creative stuff. I'm not a programmer, so I don't do any of that sort of engineering. So I was able to kind of spend the creative energy on getting this thing up into sort of pre-production levels. But this is really, my wheelhouse. I love strategy games, but the only ones I've ever played insanely a ton of are like the Shining Force and Advance Wars, kind of the really fast-paced, funner, simpler stuff. And then my wheelhouse has always been sort of really great sort of action adventure-y stuff. So you can probably expect to see more of that stuff from us in the future, but this game has been really a great learning experience and really kind of reaffirming to me what I really like building. And for us, just internally, the idea of a roguelike that is different every time you play, and it's all based on physics and really good AI, and has a really high skill level, means that even now we're still having a great time playing the game, which is unusual for something that you've been hammering on every day for 3 years. So I'm really happy about that. And again, you can probably expect to see more stuff like that from us in the future, because it's too much fun for us as creators to have something that's constantly being remixed for us internally, so we could just always have a new game to play.
Even though this is very much in the team's wheelhouse, it's not like a surprising thing to move on from Skulls of the Shogun to, and I don't make games, so maybe I'm off base on this, but from the outside, Galak-Z seems far more ambitious than Skulls of the Shogun did in terms of scale. The presentation of the story
these things,
yeah. Please, go ahead.
Balloon like crazy. Skulls of the Shogun was supposed to be a 6-month iOS project. We were going to just do it on and that kind of got all blown out of shape.
Famous last words.
Yeah, and so that ended up turning into a 3-year multi-platform release. This, too, was kind of meant to be something simpler and smaller, and it just sort of expanded and expanded. we tend to get ambitious. I mean, when you get to make your own games, it's hard to say no to a bunch of this stuff. I mean, we're learning a lot, and we're hopefully going to be able to get our production times down tighter for the next schedule or for the next project. Also, building off the back of this game in terms of the tech and stuff like that will make hopefully for a faster turnaround for the next project. But
see, you talk about the fact that like that seems so counterintuitive to me, and I know you have a very long history in the games industry, and you've been working on games well before 17-bit formed, but usually when a game goes into production, it's scaled back from its initial ambitions. It doesn't expand into all of these different things. Is that
No. Games always start with a simple ideas, like, we're going to bang through this. I mean, every title I've ever worked on has expanded beyond the initial scope, I think.
Really?
I mean, at every company I've ever been at. Yeah, I mean, because at first you're like, all right, here's the boilerplate, here's the idea, here's the concept. And as you start exploring that, you're like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? This would make way better if we added this thing to this system. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, and this is super fun. And it just kind of goes out until you either run out of money or you've got some strict publisher that kind of steps on you. But it's tough. It's a constant game of how much can we do and where should we stop, and is this enough, or God, we should just add a little bit more. And it's difficult to kind of to totally pull the plug on something and be just like, all right, that's it, we're done. We're not going to add anything more. What about this really cool thing? It would be we have to just stop at some point. It's like a painting. It's never done. You just abandon it at some point.
How do you recognize like something like, all right, we're not going to get this done. This is not a good idea. Let's ship this game. How do you take that step back and say, like, this isn't going to make the game better if we delay putting this out to make sure it's there?
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to ask. If you've noticed, every title I've shipped as my own studio has been about a year and a half later than we thought it would be. So I'm probably not the best authority to answer that question.
Well, give me an example of something that you really wanted to get in to Galak-Z that didn't make it in. And maybe something that, like, not even wasn't a time issue, but, like, something that you started developing, and then it just didn't work. You were like, wait a second, this isn't fun, this sucks.
Well, sometimes, I mean, for me particularly, like from my own experience and my own sort of role in the company, I mean, I'm the creative lead, and I'll have an idea of something I want to do. And sometimes I think it's easy, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm sure we can probably bang this out. And then I'll, take it to the tech team, and they're like, yeah, that's not happening. Oh, why not? They're like, well, because you didn't consider this. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, that sounds legitimate. So sometimes cool ideas that seem like they would be a no-brainer kind of are just too much to get going. Maybe you prototype it for a bit, and it turns out it's going to be way more technically demanding, and you kind of look at your timeline, and you're like, well, we can either do this, or we can, get onto this other stuff that we kind of have to do. It's a constant challenge. Every day is a constant series of difficult questions that have to be answered, and you don't always make the right call. It's making games is hard, and making good games is almost impossible. And it really it's a bitch, man. It's super fun, and it's always engaging. And every day I like coming to work because it's going to be some crazy new challenge. And when it does come together, it feels fantastic. It's such a great camaraderie with a great team, and working together to kind of come up with cool solutions and making something awesome is one of the greatest things in the world. I mean, this is my favorite job I've ever had by a long shot. But it's hard. It's really hard, and you have to just make difficult decisions on a daily basis, and that never gets easy. Unless you're Blizzard or somebody, you got $1 zillion and you could just spend 7 years and just throw it all in there. Don't worry about it.
One of the things that really appeals to me about this game is the art style and the visual style, and not for everything from the color palette you're using in the combat sequences to the font you use for the game over. It's so wonderfully 80s. Did that go through iterations, or was this the look as originally conceived?
Actually, I mean, it's close. It kind of started more 70s anime. Battlestar or Yamato, Star Blazer.
Yeah. That's what it was, Yamato! That was what I was trying to remember earlier, Susan.
Some of those kind of slightly more cheesy ones were the ones that I was sort of initially envisioning in my head, and then we started watching a bunch of anime and kind of just looking at a bunch of stuff. And, I was thinking about the stuff that I grew up with. I mean, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica were both, huger influences on me than Yamato was. But I did watch, Yamato every morning. 6 o'clock in the morning, I'd wake up and watch it every day. So I
Yep,
kind of
right
drew
before
from all
school.
those things. That it went from sort of late 70s, and some of the stuff is still kind of the late 70s. I mean, some of the character design stuff is a little bit more of the cheesier stuff. Towards the early 80s, the anime got a little bit more, sexy. Like the explosions and stuff started to really ramp up, and like the Macross stuff, and kind of the early 80s on is when a lot of the effect work got to be a lot better than the earlier 70s stuff, which was kind of these gritty, like painted explosions and stuff.
Right.
So, doing some more research into those sort of early 80s sci-fi anime, Crusher Joe was another big one that was kind of done by Shoji Kawamori, who was the lead sort of mech and tech designer on the Macross series, the original Macross series. He went on to do Crusher Joe, which also kind of reeks of that same era. And watching a couple of those for reference, I fell in love with them and watched them over and over. I love all that stuff. I love the campiness and the drama and the adventure. And before being a game director, I was an artist for years and years in the games industry. So I pay a lot of attention to. I mean, I've been everything from a staff artist to texture artist, animator, concept artist, production designer, and so I pay a lot of attention to just visual communication and the use of color, the use of shape, like how to. I've been a hardcore game player my whole life, and my job has always been the visual designer. So the two kind of coincide well for what we're trying to do here. I think that's something we were really successful with Skulls of the Shogun too. It's just like the subtle touches of visual communication to help lead the player to know what to do without being needed told too much, and kind of which enemies are shooting what and what's dangerous, what's not. Galak-Z, there's definitely an exploration phase at the beginning where you're like, is this dangerous? Do I touch it? Do I not touch it? And that's by design. Like I wanted people to feel like, ooh, is this weird alien world? Like what's happening? I don't know what happens with these bubbles. If I shoot them, what's going to happen? Like that's cool. It's like I played a lot of Metroid. That all comes from that. But visual communication is something that I spend a lot of effort on. I'm proud of our work there.
Jake, I'm not sure if anyone watching is deeply familiar with your career pre-17-bit, but you worked on many, many Sega games. And I'm curious.
I was at Sega for a while.
You were at Sega for a while, and you worked on things that people adore and have a lot of affection for. You worked on Space Channel 5 and Rez. I'm curious what.
Two of my favorite games.
Yeah, ever.
Yes.
I'm curious what of that era, that sort of early aughts period.
Okay, but before we get into that, I have to ask. You may not be able to answer. Is she Lady Miss Kier or not?
No, that not at all. The stuff that we were looking at was more the Barbarella, a lot of those old 60s campy stuff. That I literally didn't even think about that connection until she started raising a stink, and I was like, I guess she could see where that comes from, but like her whole thing is based on that same era that we're drawing from, and I'm like,
exactly.
Do you own that? Like, I don't think so. I don't know that you can actually say that you can. A lot of people when they see Galak-Z, they also like, well, this looks like Beautiful Joe. They just rip out Beautiful Joe. I'm like, do you know where Beautiful Joe comes from? There's a whole lot of people that have been doing that look for a long time, and those guys are like revisiting that, but that doesn't mean it's theirs. Like, there's a difference there. So no, Lady Kier, I think she lost a lawsuit, and
she
we were like, no, you got nothing. We didn't even look at your stuff once. Now we're gonna, but to make sure that we don't, any further go into this, but you had nothing to do with this. So.
Okay, what sort of materials?
Hello, Almond Panda, just hopping in the chat, saying hi. Hello. Welcome everybody. If you are just joining us, welcome to Games Radar Plus Live. This is our new talk show, How It's Done, where we talk to game developers about how the hell they do their jobs, because as far as I'm concerned, it's done by magic.
Since we just started a new episode, I want to know where the titles for the episodes and the writer names came from.
Yes.
So most of that kind of shell work comes from our good friend Colin Williamson. He's not with the studio anymore. He moved on to Shinra to get paid the big bucks because we're a little indie studio. But he's in that. We love working with him. We worked with him for years. We've been friends since when I first moved to Japan in '99. I joined Sega in Tokyo, and he was working at IGN at the time, PC IGN, or no, Dreamcast IGN. And he came into the studio. And we met up, and he lived in Tokyo. He was an American, and we just started hanging out. We've been friends ever since. He was with the studio through Skulls of the Shogun and for a good chunk of Galak-Z. And he's just a nut. He loves those old cartoons. He loves his dad's a voice actor, and he just had a ton of great ideas. A lot of those really cool polish things are his. The pause screen and
the pause screen I just love.
Pause screen is
all
amazing.
that stuff. But shit, where was I going with this? What were we just talking about?
The titles.
The titles.
The titles, yes. So he went through and looked at a bunch of the writers of these early 80s cartoons, like these famous writers and stuff, and they all had like kind of 80s dated, like people that were born in the 40s and 50s, so they had like different names. And so he wanted to just do a sort of a procedurally generated name generator.
Oh,
these
that's
giant
amazing.
databases of names. And so all these old writers' names, and they would never use the same first name and the same last name. So it would be like one of this, the other. And then I threw my kids' names in and some of friends in the studio and, so stupid stuff like that. And then the titles, he also created a name generator. He scripted this thing together, and he just looked at a bunch of these old titles, these old cartoons, old G.I. Joes and old Transformers, and that whole era of those kind of early 80s, mid-80s cartoons. And we just threw this giant database of keywords, and we just had a brainstorm session. We threw a bunch of stuff in there, and it works really well. It looks really legit.
But they're all
They totally seem legit, man. They totally seem of that era.
I can't even tell. They're
Blood of the
amazing.
Wolves, or the Steel Titan. Like, they're all made up. It's great.
Oh God, that is awesome. That is absolutely.
I wish I could take
outstanding.
credit for that. That's all Colin.
All right, I have to say the best title for any episode of any 80s cartoon has to be one of the super early Transformers ones, which is Roll For It. And every single title that I've seen come up in this so far, it totally falls in line with Roll For It.
By the way, Ludwig and others would like to point out that your ship is on fire.
They're on fire! Show you who's
like
on fire.
That was relevant to your interests.
Yeah, Jake, I want to say, I'm usually way better at video games. It's that I'm talking.
He's not.
I'm
No,
way
he's-
better when
No.
I'm not doing this and failing miserably. I am
Galaxy
curious.
is tough, actually. You need to focus in a way. I mean, now you're getting your skills up. It's kind of early on, but later in the game, like I can't really be interviewed while playing the game at a high level because you need to be 100% focused on what you're doing, or you're going to get killed real quick. And that's kind of one of our favorite things about that.
I have no problem dying repeatedly. I think people enjoy my suffering. I am always fascinated by like the difficulty balancing process. You were touching on this earlier, talking about how people think it's very tough but fair, and that's something you really wanted to focus on. But that's not easy to nail. And I'm curious, how did the difficulty of Galak-Z change over the past 3 years? Like, was it harder? Was it easier? Was it completely different? How did you get to this balance?
I think the core difficulty has raised. I mean, as we were working with this team Sentient on the AI and sort of designing stuff, and they would implement it, and we did a lot of kind of collaboration and back and forth, and we kept adding more and more abilities, and so the guys kept getting smarter and smarter and faster and faster, and as we became to understand these systems better and better, we were able to get in there and really sort of tweak and tune stuff. And so I think the overall balance of stuff kind of got harder and harder and harder to the point where we were like, we're in there and having a great time with it, but we're really good at the game because we're playing every day. So we're like, okay, we need to like do dumbed down versions of these guys. Like people will just get chewed up if we throw these guys in right at the beginning of the game. So we spent a lot of time on separating them into different tiers of guys and kind of figuring out when they're going to start getting introduced and by what point should you be mostly fighting the tier 2 guys versus the tier 3 guys, and we're working on the tier 4 stuff now for some of the DLC. So it's just getting it's been a long process of just lots of playing the game. The dynamics sort of change, and the pacing and how big the levels are and stuff like that. Everything has to be sort of taken into account, how long we want people to be playing on average, and how many enemies the machine can handle at one time. Like we had one build where there was hundreds of guys. Like you could just be fighting hundreds of guys, and the performance dove down. It was awesome. There was like 100 guys, and you're literally fighting everybody. And I was like, okay, someday, somehow, when tech can handle it, I want to have a 100-man squad in here coming after me and see how long I can live.
One true Nate was talking in the chat before. He wanted to know if there's ever going to be like an endless wave mode in the DLC or something like that. And it sounds like 100 enemies.
Right now.
Nothing announced. My favorite
I think
answer.
that's right now.
My favorite answer in the world in the video game industry. We have nothing to announce right now. Everybody, Game Gear version of Galak-Z confirmed. Right there. That's what Jake Kazdal is saying. Kanani87, hello and welcome. And yes, we are talking to Jake Kazdal of 17-Bit Studios about his game Galak-Z right now. That I am succeeding at the moment. I went through a whole place where there were ships, and I blew them up, and it was fine. And I'm no longer on fire. I like not being on fire, Jake. It's going my way. You guys can hear the voice of Jake Kazdal. You cannot see Jake Kazdal because OBS, the open broadcasting software that we use to bring you these streams, is a jerkus. And that's the Latin term.
It is a blue-skinned space alien.
Yes.
Who is therefore a jerk. So after Game Gear, we'll start working on the Intellivision version, right?
Sure.
Jake, I do like. I love what is happening at this moment in independent game design. That studios like 17-bit are we're no longer in that period where we were in 2008 and 2010, where sort of everything looked like an NES game, and you started to see some fatigue where people are like, oh, why's everything got to be pixelated? And we're moving beyond that. We see things that
I think I'm probably the worst person to ask to do sort of pixel art, just because I worked at Nintendo actually during the NES days. I was a game counselor on the hotlines there during the Nintendo sort of heyday. And as soon as the Super Famicom was announced, I think I saw the first couple pictures in old EGM. I was just like, yeah, I'm over the big blocky pixels. I just could not wait to get out of that era. Super Nintendo is probably still my favorite machine of all time, especially the Super Famicom, the design of it, all the crazy genres of games, all the different kinds of stuff that was going on back then, the tight controls, the 2D cameras. So I'm really sort of in love with that. But our theory here is to make games that kind of hark back to those days, in your mind's eye, not necessarily when you're looking at them, but kind of how they felt back then when you were a kid. You were playing through these things. I think Galak-Z is a good example of how to do a retro game by what we call our 17-bit standards. It's kind of adding some of the crucial elements of really modern stuff and having it look really nice, but it kind of harkens back to that era more than it actually pays physical homage to.
Right.
Jake, something I love about it, though, because it does really sort of capture that, not exactly what it looked like, but what you remember it being like. But even then, as much as there is that sort of retro style, it's not overburdened with nostalgia. I don't think that even when you have the VHS screen for a pause menu, this doesn't feel like a nostalgic game for me. It feels very contemporary and relevant. And I'm curious how you avoid that. How do you make sure that something borrows a style of the past, but doesn't feel, slavishly devoted to it? Yeah.
Well, I think a key point here is, at a glance, this looks like a shooting game, right? It looks like a Gradius or a modern R-Type or something on a modern system or something like that. But really, our visual targets, as much as we borrowed a bit of that stuff, our visual targets were really more on that old anime. So look, we weren't trying to do stylized 16-bit pixel explosions. We were looking at these old animated movies and series and stuff and saying, God, those explosions look sick. How do we do that? How could we do a modern version of that? How can we make a particle system and sprites that are going to support that and make it look like this big juicy tendrils and stuff coming out and glows and all the debris flying everywhere? You're not going to find that kind of inspiration looking at old games because they were really sort of technically burdened by just the capabilities of the machines at the time. So we really spent a lot of time deconstructing these effects work and stuff like that from these old cartoons, and I think that's why. But doing that in sort of a live, organic, sort of particle-based, sort of modern way, I think that's where the look of the game really stands out, and it's by design, and we're very proud of it.
We do have a question here from Kanani87, and you did sort of touch on this earlier, Jake, but he says, what made 17-bit change Galak-Z to a roguelike since originally the levels weren't procedurally generated.
So I love to talk about this because that's actually a huge misconception. I don't know where it got started. It's true that the game was not born as a roguelike. At first, we had one level, and we kept tuning it, kept changing it, and we were just focused on the combat and controls and all that kind of stuff. But as soon as we got to the point where we're like, all right, we need to start thinking about content. Like, we had one level. That was the one level that we had. It was all hand-built. It was hand-tuned. It was a complete pain in the butt to go in and tweak every single rock and every little thing. And I was like, this isn't sustainable. We can't make every level that's going to take this much work and effort to kind of maintain and edit and change and stuff like that. So the lead engineer, Zach, and I started coming up with a plan to kind of make an editor to place these things in by hand that was kind of much more abstract. And as soon as we had that going, we could start, plopping in where the rocks were going to go and stuff like that with this little hand-based editor instead of literally going in Maya and like moving every rock. I was playing a bunch of Spelunky and I was playing a bunch of these other games. I was like, this game is not about like this overarching story and these moment-by-moment things that we're never going to be able to design as a small studio. It's more about the combat and sort of exploring space. And so as soon as we had this tool ready, I was like, can we try just shuffling these rooms around? I'll make a bunch of rooms and let's try shuffling them and see how it feels and see if it holds up. And it was amazing. I remember that first night where I went from playing the same level over and over and over again to new content every time I played. And I was like, we're never looking back. This is fantastic. So there's a real strong misconception that this game was not going to be a roguelike for a long time, but it's just not the case. It just naturally fell into that really early on.
I like talking about this with developers of modern roguelikes and modern games independently developed that have procedurally generated content, because I do think that there is a stigma right now around a lot of procedurally generated games, that there is this sort of thought process that they're not as high quality as a handcrafted game.
Yeah, and I think there was a time that I thought that for a long time too. I never liked the procedurally generated dungeons and stuff in some of the older games. I always thought that it was way better to have everything scripted and kind of really tuned in. But what people don't understand until they build a game like this is that you have as much finite control over these algorithms as you want.
Right.
There's no part that you have to just like let it be wide open and in complete chaos like a jungle. Like, you can go in and be like, okay, at this level in the game, these are the couple of streams we're going to pull from. These are the enemies that are available. Like, we're never going to go over this. We're never going to go under this. Like, you have absolute finite control. It makes sense at certain spots to let it kind of open up and be more random. But there's a lot of spots where we're like, nope, like, I really want you to have a very similar experience every time through this tunnel. It's going to be a little bit different. But you can kind of work between the two extremes and design anything you want. And I'll admit, I didn't really realize that until we sat down and designed all these systems. So, but now that I know that, I'm much more open to that. And, it's really interesting designing these algorithms. Like, we played a bunch. It's like, does this feel right? It's like, I think these guys are a little too hard. I think there's a little too many enemies. It's like, all right, cool. Go in there and just, tap that down a bit. Play some more. This feels great. Okay, cool. What's the next issue to move on to? You've got as much control as you want on all these systems.
Jake, this question...
It's also...
sorry, Susan.
It's important... Yeah, I'm here too. It's important to match the type of game it is with stuff being procedurally generated. For a game like this, it totally makes sense because it adds a lot to the replayability, especially when you do have the difficulty level tuned the way it is. If it was just the same course every single time, I think you would lose a lot of that challenge.
Absolutely, and it's
super
about
fast.
Sort of. It's not a memorization-based game at all. It's about learning sort of overall patterns of enemies and kind of how they fight. But then you're going to get them in different groups of guys. You're going to have different situational stuff. You're going to have a different environment you're in every time. It makes it so much more just exciting to me and dynamic and just kind of like you really feel like you're testing your skill set because you're being thrown into all these sort of live situations. And your skills just kind of keep getting better and better and better. And it's not about like, oh, this guy always does this and he always does this, and he's always waiting around that corner and I know he's there. It's just alive, and it's much more of a sort of a combat simulator. And I think that more than anything, that's what this game has always been in my head. I loved Halo. The original Halo is probably my favorite game of all time, and I played it on Legendary so many hours, just over and over. And even though they were more scripted levels, a lot of those big battles and stuff, once it got going, shit just went crazy. There was you couldn't, like, you could remember a couple things, like, I know the ship's going to touch down over here, I know it's going to come over here, and all these dudes are going to come swarming out, but, like, there is no one pattern that's going to save your butt every time. You've got to be thinking on the fly, you've got to be making new plans, you've got to be really that scramble. I love the GTA series, too, and whenever you're, like, just deep in the shit, there's a bunch of cops chasing after you, and you're just scrambling, and you're looking at every jump, and you're looking at every opportunity of, like, how I could use the environment to buy me another second or two, just, running away from these guys. Like, that sort of really improvisational sort of action game skill set, to me, is I think one of the most thrilling things in games, and I think that's where we really decided to focus on with this game. I think it worked really well.
So that ties in with a question that we have in the chat. Is there any chance of adding co-op to this? Now, does that kind of the type of gameplay where you really need to pay attention and pay attention to what's going on and react quickly, does that lend itself to co-op in this environment?
It might. We actually, we're a tiny team. We've never had the time to kind of get out of the initial scope of what we're doing with this thing to experiment with some of that stuff. I mean, if the game sells well and we've got money coming in and the game is, got an audience that's supporting things, I would love to add stuff like that. I think it'd be super awesome. Obviously, I would love to play that, but we've just never literally had the free bandwidth to kind of sit down and tune with some of that stuff. Like, just getting the core game done has been a real challenge, and I think we've done really well, and so we're really proud of what we've delivered. But we couldn't cut ourselves any thinner and kind of commit to a bunch of that other stuff. I mean, I would love versus mode. I think that would be super fun. I don't think it'd be a whole ton of work, but we need to get this thing done and out and see how much money we make to see if there's a budget to support that stuff. So,
Jake, I was literally just going to say, I can imagine a 1 versus 1 version of this, and just
we had a program a long time ago. It was awesome. And talk about getting your skills higher and higher. Like, it was phenomenal. So I would love to do that. I can't promise it until I know that we're going to be able to support that and have the budget to basically pay for that stuff. We're a small team, and this game is going to have to. We got a lot of debt right now to get out of before we can start worrying about stuff like that.
There was another question from Red Wings fan 1970 here. Can you please consider giving an option for the camera zoom degree to be adjusted? This would make the game much more enjoyable. I know the right stick is the peak option, which is nice, but I would love it pulled back some more. That's interesting. I actually kind of wish that it was a little closer. I would imagine that having it adjustable would be fun, but is that something that's in the cards?
No. It's not that we couldn't do it, but I mean, you have to realize that every one of those systems has about 20 things attached to it that are tuned to that one thing. So if this thing is going to scale, that means all these other systems have to scale with it. It means more stuff on screen. It means the bullets are going to have different die-off screen. The AI is going to have to start, alerting things at a different rate. Like, it's not a simple thing to just change stuff like that without kind of adjusting a bunch of other things. And so, we spent a lot of time tuning this, and this is kind of the camera angle that we felt was the best for most of the situations, and we could tune the stuff to the tightest, and that's what we stuck with. So I realize that sometimes it doesn't seem like they're really, it'd be an easy thing to throw in or whatever, but if it's not in there, it's probably for a pretty good reason.
It's one of my favorite things that I've ever heard any creator of anything say. I was watching a band, and they were playing one of their last shows of their entire life. And, it's the last show, so you've got all these diehard fans screaming for, like, super obscure songs. And the lead singer is like, no, wait. In times like these, I say the same thing. If it's in stock, we have it. And the meaning in that situation was, we don't remember how to play everything we've ever done. But I like to think about that, like, when a game ships, if it's in stock, we have it. If there's not an option for something, there's a good reason. It's a pretty good summation of that. You know what? I'm really embarrassed, Jake, that I have not been able to get past the 3rd episode of Season 1. That's not... What am I doing wrong? Yeah, no,
it's a hard... It's exactly what you said before. I was making fun of you, but it's true. You're not... This is a game you have to pay attention to. You clearly need to think about what you're doing, react to what is happening, learn how the different aliens move and how you move and what the different power-ups do. This is not something you can just kind of like bluff your way through.
Yeah, there is.
Did you? I'm not watching the stream because I'm just on this one channel here. Did you die, or are you still in that?
Oh, I died again. I got.
He dies.
Yeah, I died. I died spectacularly. I was actually, Susan, I think you could back me up on this. I was acquitting myself pretty well on that last run.
You
was going
You were
okay. Like, I was learning. But, like, you know, I keep doing the thing, Jake, where it's like a giant bug will come out, and I'll be like, screw you, giant bug. I'm tired of your bug things. And I'll start flying away from him backwards and be like, haha, eat gun. And then I fly directly into a wall, and I'm stuck there. It's not.
You've got the juke.
Yes,
right?
I've got the juke, and I keep forgetting to use the juke. I feel like I should be abusing the juke. I'm not doing it at all. But I'm sitting here trying to take these guys out. When do you get the mech, by the way? Is that second season? Is that where I am?
Second season, yeah. Yeah, you need to beat the first season, and the first season was really about teaching the player how to get up on their feet, how to handle the basics of the gameplay, how the combat works, how the systems work, what happens when you die, all these kind of things. And then the mech is his own thing. He completely controls differently. He different controls, different weapons, different abilities, different everything. And so we thought it was a lot to dump on a new player at first, because this game does ask a lot of the player's skill set. You kind of have to learn how to be pretty competitive pretty quickly. So we didn't want to overload new players, and then by the time you're ready to get to the second season, you've mastered the basics, and it's time for you to sort of jump into a whole new skill set, and then learning to kind of jump back and forth between the two. And everyone's got very different play styles. Some people still play as the mech most of the time. Some people play as the ship most of the time. I tend to be about 60-40 ship to robot. A lot of guys, it's the other way around. It really opens up and allows you to sort of create your own playstyle, which is something that I think is another key moment of this kind of gameplay. And I'm really, as I kind of self-analyze my own playing styles and a lot of the stuff that I like a lot, I really spend a lot of time thinking about the kind of games that I like, and a lot of them really are a lot of sort of players' agency is wide open. It's not a very scripted, linear experience that you have to do a certain way. It's like, how am I going to handle this situation? I want to get up to grips with my controls and stuff and be thrown into these crazy situations and kind of find my own way out of them. And I think that this kind of ship and mech relationship is really interesting in that way, that really people really come up with their own ways of playing. And watching people play for the first time, you're like, wow, I didn't even know you could do that. Like, I never would have thought to fight like that. And it's cool that it's that sort of open and organic.
You do capture one of my favorite feelings in an action game, which is as soon as I see the red lights coming off of an enemy ship, that utter panic of being like, oh god, I gotta do a thing now, what way am I going, what am I doing? I've managed to get through an entire episode without losing any life. Now who's on fire, chat? Take that. Take that. Jake, sorry.
I was just gonna say, you realize by saying that you have doomed yourself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh yeah, immediately. It's gonna happen right freaking away.
Single and Loving It offers the tip: try not getting hit by the lasers and missiles.
Yeah, it's probably good advice. I
would prioritize that, actually. Yeah.
I would not turn that down. I would not turn that advice down. Jake, we have just a few minutes left on the stream. Thank you so much for stopping by, man. I apologize again for the technical difficulties getting you on. I would like to say that won't happen again. That's a lie, isn't it, Susan? I'm lying?
Yeah, you are.
It's a lie.
Yeah,
it's a lie, everybody. That's probably going to happen again at some point.
Yeah.
This is a question that I enjoy asking independent studios that have been working on original properties. Have you thought about working on a license? And I'm curious about what it takes for an independent studio to work on a licensed game that's not contracted by a larger publisher. What would be the process for that?
We've been approached by studios hoping to have us, pick up a project and do it for them. Some licensed IP or whatever. Like, hey, you guys would have some creative control, but we really want a game based on this movie that's coming up or whatever. I just have not had any interest in that. I've been working in games since the late 80s, basically. I mean, I started Nintendo in 89. I mean, I didn't get into production until about 96, and I was actually like a staff artist and stuff like that. But, I've worked this whole career trying to get up to this point where I get to make my own games, and I think the last thing I'd want to do is work on a licensed thing. I'd much rather create my own characters and world and, collaborate with the team and come up with stuff that we think is something really cool as opposed to doing something that, somebody else did all the creative stuff on. We actually... When I was at Sega, I was in Tokyo, Indistinguishable for years there, about 4.5 years. And I did Space Channel 5, which was crazy. It was this brand new thing. We had no idea what we were doing. We were building all this weird stuff and having a great time. It was like this adventure. You have no idea what you're getting into. After that, we did Rez, which was even crazier and even more like, what the hell are we building? Like, no one has any idea. This is weird. After that, I did a new IP that it ended up getting canceled. It was a GameCube sort of adventure game. It was also totally crazy and random and new. And then everyone was so into that sort of vibe. At some point, the last thing we got tasked with was Astro Boy, doing the Astro Boy game, which is based on a cartoon.
I remember that game.
Yeah,
the
it was the
PS2
first
game, right?
Physics-based game on PS2. Yeah. So we basically kind of started getting eaten up by Sonic Team at that point. And the Music Sound left kind of after that. And the whole team, basically the survivors that stayed, all got merged into Sonic Team. But a lot of the really creative guys were like, just not into it, It's like all the style guides were done, all the art was done, all you had to do was model the stuff they made for the movie, and I remember thinking just like, I don't feel like I'm challenging myself, I don't really want to be doing this.
That's a bummer.
Short answer is no. I don't want to do anything licensed, unless there's one IP from some big company that I would love to do a work with, but it's not a complete pipe dream, but it's probably a pipe dream. I'm not even going to get into it. But if that ever fell into my lap, I'd do it, but I'll leave that as
It's
that
BMX XXX, isn't it? That's the one.
David, how did you guess? Yeah.
I knew it! I knew that was going to be it. Susan, if you could have any game from any old property, like that's the impossible dream, it will never get made, what would it be?
Wait, what do you mean, like, from any property? What do you
mean?
Like,
any franchise, any game series, any license that you want to see come back. The impossible dream, as Jake put it moments ago, a pipe dream. What's your pipe dream game?
Wow, gosh. Honestly, the one game that I want that will never, ever, 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 ever see the light of day again is Super Mario RPG.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a good
It will
one.
Never, ever happen. I mean, I still have my copy.
Wait, are they still pumping those out? There was like a Game Boy one.
It's the same people. It's the same people, but when you ask them if they would ever do a game in the proper style of Super Mario RPG again, they say, nope, we did it, we're done. Which is like, it's Alpha Dream? Is that the guys that keep making the Paper Marios and Mario and Luigi games?
Yeah, I mean, those are good.
But it is like the same crew, mostly. Which is weird that they feel so different. Man, I would kill for a Super Mario RPG. Actually, Susan, I'm going to change my answer to that one. I was gonna say I want somebody to build a gigantic action RPG out of Reboot, but
oh god,
it's just never. Nobody's going to make that for me.
No. Although, to bring this full circle to the beginning of the pre-show, I will take a Galaxy High game.
Oh, any second of any day.
Any day of the week. Huh?
Did you say Galaxy Hockey?
Galaxy High.
High.
Oh, Galaxy High. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Was that part of your Saturday morning lineup, Jake? Was that a thing that you indulged in?
I see the crystal.
Galaxy High? No, that was outside of the Yamato lineup. Actually, Galaxy High was a few years after that.
I don't remember that one.
It's exactly what it sounds like. It was a bunch of aliens going to. It was Saved by the Bell with aliens.
It was Saved by the Bell in space.
Yeah, and it was great.
It was awesome.
I don't know where I was at the time.
It was so good.
Hanging out, doing something more important. Everybody, thank you for joining us today. Really, really love it when you come out and watch our streams. that does it for our streams this week. We will be back next week. On Monday, Maxwell McGee will be playing Grandia 2 HD. A little Dreamcast action for you. And that will be on Monday. On Tuesday, we will be hanging out with comic book writer Cullen Bunn, which is the awesomest name in the world, Cullen Bunn. That sounds like a Galaxy High character, frankly. And we will also be hanging out with the guys who are making Enter the Gungeon next week, which is going to be
I like that one.
That's cool stuff.
Going to be a lot of fun. If you have not followed us yet, follow us here on twitch.tv/GamesRadar, and go to GamesRadar.com, where we have all kinds of fun things for you to read and watch and do. Jake, is there any place that you would like to point people to find out more about Galak-Z? I know it's available on PlayStation 4 right now. Is the PC edition out there? Is that out in the wild?
It's not out yet. It'll be coming out sometime this fall. We will have, hopefully, it on display at PAX this year. The 17bit.com has got everything you need to follow us. Twitter, we're 17bit underscore. 17bit underscore.
17 underscore.
Bit. Work with me here. Jesus. I am Jake Kazdal on Twitter. It's JKOOZA. We're keeping most of our stuff on our website. We've got an official FAQ we're working on. We've got a kind of forums and stuff for people to discuss things in the game. Keep track of us there. We've got a Facebook page for Galak-Z. Just keep in touch, and we'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on the games.
Awesome, man. Well, we will absolutely have you back on at some point.
Cool.
Even if it's just
anytime, we're happy to.
Even if it's like we are just going to sit around and play a whole lot of Space Channel 5. Susan, you want to do that?
I'm in.
Jake, you want to stream Space Channel 5 with us sometime?
Up, down, up.
Absolutely.
Awesome. He said it on the air, everybody. It's locked in. All right, everybody.
Doing that.
Totally doing that. We will see
you
you
how
next
I feel
week.
about that game.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks, everybody,
All
for
right.
watching.
Thanks, guys.